to introduce themselves, and we'll see when the card comes out what we're asking you to do. We're going to have a few minutes about what LAHAAG is, Lakeshore Affordable Housing Advocacy and Action Group. And we're going to have an understanding of the housing situations in South Etobicoke, a little discussion about that. We're going to update you on our recent work. And then Salome is going to come in and update us about her recent work. It's very exciting. We're going to come down to, as we start to close, three key messages that we want you to take with you as you start talking to candidates in both the provincial and the municipal elections that will be coming up. And then Daniel's going to talk about the community leadership workshop series. So that's basically how it goes. And I'm going to start with the land acknowledgement, and we'll move right into the introductions. As we gather here today, we would like to acknowledge that we are meeting tonight on land that is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, First Nations, Ojibwe and Anishinaabe peoples, as well as the Chippewa and Haudenosaunee and the Wendat people who named this land Etobicoke. This land is covered by Treaty 13, the Toronto Purchase, and now known as the land between Etobicoke Creek to the west and Ashbridges Bay to the east. To learn more, go to native-land.ca or whos.land. Now, on to the introductions. I'm going to start. My name is Kate O'Neill. I am a lead at LAHAAG, and my connection to South Etobicoke, I work here, I live here. I've lived here for 30 years. I have worked in the area and in the housing, in housing. And my reason for joining the meeting today is to give you guys some great ideas to take forward with the elections and to discuss and understand other people's issues with housing or how they've been affected. Carly is going to run the introductions because she can see all your names, and so she'll call on you to say a few words.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. My name is Carly, and I live and work in South Etobicoke. I'm a social worker as well as a housing advocate. I've been on the leadership committee for LAHAAG for the last 3 years. So I'm really excited to be here with all of you and share some of the things that we've been up to, what's coming up, and how we can work better together. So that's sort of my reason for being here tonight. So I'm just going to go based on who I see on my screen. Norki, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Norki. I live in Parkdale, but I work in South Etobicoke with Jasmine and at LAMP, and that's how I got involved with the affordable housing thing. And personally, I would want to have one also. Okay, that's it.
Awesome, thank you, Norki. Next time, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Nekme Obasogie. So I work with Jasmine. I've been working with Jasmine for the past 10 months. So I'm particularly interested in this housing workshop because I'm going to be writing an article based on the discussion today, probably publish it on social media after writing the article. So I'm looking forward to this discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Jasmine?
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Just came back from Gus Ryder, local pool. I work for LAMP Community Health Center, and I've been involved with LAHAAG and affordable housing for a little over 3 years now, and very excited to be here. I also live in the community, and I think I've lived here for about 39 years. Yeah. So very happy to be here, very excited to share some of the work that has been done in the community, and really looking forward to some new collaborations and growing the affordable housing movement and some other news we have. So that's my reason for being here today, and really welcome everybody. So glad to see you all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jasmine. Salome?
Hi, everybody. My name is Salome Amadi. I grew up in South Etobicoke. I went to George R. Gall, John English, Bishop Allen, and I worked with, well, I was a youth at LAMP at one point, and I worked with LAMP, and I'm part of Humber College doing the partnership with a research project that I'll chat about. And so very passionate about the impacts of housing and well-being and socioeconomics. I'll chat about that later. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Judy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Judy Gibson. I'm on the board of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association, and I've lived in the neighborhood for more than 30 years. Kate, it's delightful to see you. Kate and I, our children grew up together, and I think we've been on so many committees since the nursery school times.
Nursery school days, that's right.
Yeah, so it's great to see you here. And I've been on various boards and volunteer committees all the way along. And prior to joining the board of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association, I co-chaired the Redmond, Father John Redmond School Board, the parent council. So see a lot of familiar faces here. Great to see everybody, and very interested in, I think this is the first time I've been part of this group, but I'm involved in a lot of different initiatives in the neighborhood. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you, Judy. Glad that you could join us tonight. Tim?
Well, hello, my name is Tim Ellis. My pronouns are he, him. I live in Mimico, where I moved in 2012. I'm a rave DJ and also help to run advocacy campaigns. I am on the board of the Mimico Residents Association and also one of the founding members of Etobicoke Climate Action. And I am joining tonight because I love it here. And I want to make sure people can afford to live here and stay here. We're hoping to raise a family here, and just haven't seen enough or anything really from the existing governments to give me faith that will happen on its own. So I'm excited to see people taking it into their own hands.
Awesome, thank you so much. That's what we're all about, just more power to us as community members. Daniel?
Thank you, Carly. Hello and good evening. My name is Daniel Plant. I work and volunteer in South Etobicoke. I've also lived in South Etobicoke my whole life. I love it so much, but I can't wait to get out of here. And that's part of the reason that I'm here today, is to try to make sure that people like myself and anyone else will have the freedom and the mobility to move throughout the country or the provinces as they see fit, without overburdensome or over onerous sort of restrictions based on income. Thank you, Carly. Back to you. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Daniel. Gotham?
Hi, everyone. Hi, friends. I'm Gautam Mukherjee. I'm I guess officially the executive director of a large mental health housing nonprofit organization called House Lincoln Mainstay Community Housing, and we have a number of properties here in South Etobicoke as well as all over the city of Toronto. And I'm a neighbor. Live on 38th Street. We've been here, I guess, just before the pandemic, although like time has no meaning now, in the new Toronto prior to that, since 2010, and raising a couple kids here. We love the community, and I have to watch myself at work because I'm really biased to just wanting to do projects in this community, because I know how awesome it is. And but we have a citywide mandate. So, but yes, that is why I'm joining, just to help if I can to increase the amount of affordable and supportive housing that we can make happen, not just here, but I think to Tim's comment, across the city and beyond too. I think our solutions are the same that are needed everywhere. Thanks.
Great, thanks so much. And you came to the right place because we're very biased to South Etobicoke as well. Vanessa?
Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa. I'm glad to be here. The afternoon session was great. I was still at Humber. I work with Humber in the pollinated study, the cross-pollination study with LAMP as well on affordable housing. Grateful to have been a research assistant now in outreach work. So I'm a community developer. I've been in the area since 2005. My kids have gone to the school. I'm right on the borderlands now of both, but I'm very happy to be here, especially with the leadership workshops and the affordable housing coming out. Salome will present the research in a minute. It's amazing to see. And I'm also part of the CBA, which is helping to inform some developments within the Etobicoke area, especially South Etobicoke. But thanks so much. I won't take too much time.
Thanks, Vanessa, for being here. Laurette?
My name is Lorette. I live in at Bloor and Islington, but I have been involved for quite a few years with lab community services, and I also do some activities with Village Mosaic, and I love that neighborhood very much, and I want to learn a little bit more about affordable housing. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very happy that you could make it out tonight. Kagan?
My name is Kagan Harris. I'm the Director of Housing Development for the Neighborhood Group. We're a nonprofit housing provider with buildings all across the city, but unfortunately we don't have any buildings in South Etobicoke yet. I used to work in South Etobicoke, supporting people experiencing homelessness to find housing, and I've always been eager to kind of put something there. I think the city has overlooked it in the past, especially with some of their new housing initiatives. So I'm eager to kind of take that enthusiasm that exists at the municipal and the federal level and maybe help filter some of it down to South Etobicoke.
Amazing. Yes, we would all love that very much. So we're excited that you can be here tonight. John?
Hello, my name is John. I'm part of the LAHAAG. I've lived in this community for all my life except for 10 years. Now I'm 64. So, it's I've seen. I've lived on both sides of the lakeshore. But I've seen in the past, since the pandemic, and it seemed to get worse, that nobody, like the homeless people, had nowhere to go, nowhere to use the washroom. The drop-in was closed at LAMP, even that they used to access Monday to Friday and got like at least one meal and could do their laundry. So I know myself, when I was working, there was nowhere to go to the washroom when you're on the road. I was in the customer's house, and I really had to go to the washroom bad, and then she said, no, you can't use the washroom, during the pandemic, so it was like, don't touch the door frames, so it was like, it was strange. And, now I'm faced with, I have housing, but, it's precarious, and it really makes me feel nervous, when you start, I could feel it upsetting my stomach, that, we may end up basically out, if the landlord decides to renovate or renovict, or, however it's termed. So, that, so I'm just here to, I'd like to see these initiatives go ahead, so that there is some light in the tunnel. So, and I think now is the time to jump on the provincial and municipal politicians, because they're right. They really want to get our votes. So if we can get together, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. The pandemic has only exacerbated the housing issues and made things worse for people experiencing homelessness. So thank you for that perspective and for being here this evening. Adele?
Hi, my name is Adele. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in a neighborhood. I'm one of the board director at Robert Cook. At the same time, I'm representing the Bosnian Mosque. I'm very glad to be here. It was the last time that you guys did the meeting. I'm very glad to hear from you and discuss what's going on with our community and housing. Thank you guys for inviting me to this event.
Of course, thank you for being here. Yes, thank you. Rose?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rose. I'm a social worker, and I just recently joined the LAMP team at the beginning of March. Prior to that, I was a social worker for the last 3 years in a VAW shelter. So Obviously, housing is very important to me. And I support a lot of clients who are either experiencing homelessness or precarious housing. And I think it's really challenging to support people with their mental health when their housing is not stable. So I feel very passionate about affordable housing, and I'm really excited to join initiatives that are addressing that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we're very fortunate to have you here and with your passion and everything as well. Linda?
Hi, yeah. Sorry I'm not on camera. I'm currently in a hospital situation, so there's a lot of things going on here that may be distracting. But yes, I've been living in the South Etobicoke Lakeshore area for over 30 years. I came here with my daughter when she was an infant, and I have used LAMP services over the years. It's been like a haven for me for the different things, information, services. It's been a really good place to help you feel grounded when you're, not when you need a little bit of help and support. And my daughter and I first used the toy library, and we were part of the Nothing Perfect program that got me into the community, and because I was originally from Willowdale. And we were in the first Santa Claus parade. I was a clown and my daughter was a little alligator or dinosaur. And so I'm here today to support LAMP and LAHAAG. And as I'm semi-retired, I have time now to give back the support they've given me. And I'm concerned about the way where things are going with our beautiful community, and I'm hoping that I can assist LAHAAG and LAMP with my experience and my knowledge of the area, my roots in the area, and hoping to keep it a place, the unique place that it is in Toronto, and a place where everyone from all walks of life can live and work. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here this evening. Debbie?
Hi, I'm Debbie Bridge. I work at LAMP. I've been at LAMP for, oh my gosh, I won't tell you because I've been there since the toy library. And I work with high-risk families. And the majority of my families are either extremely distressed due to their housing issue right now, or are worried because they all feel they're in precarious housing. They're just one developer purchase away from being homeless. So I've been one of the founding members of LAHAAG because this is such a dire need in South Etobicoke.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing your perspective and for being here this evening. Selden?
Hi, my name is Selden, and I lived roughly 15 years, most part of my life in South Etobicoke. And I've volunteered in my community for a long time, but never heard about housing. And luckily, Noki invited me recently to join and hear tonight's talk so that I'll be able to learn more and how. In that way, maybe I'll be able to help more people in my community. So I'm very happy that I was able to come today.
Yes, yeah, thank you for being here. We are really happy that you were able to make it out this evening and get all the information that we can about affordable housing. Gangjong?
Yundula.
Sorry, my name is Yundun Tianjin. I'm the Executive Board of Directors of Tibetan Canadian Culture Center, which is located in South Etobicoke. So today I just joined here to represent Tibetan Canadian Culture Center. We have around 10,000 Tibetan community members. Many of them, they're resident in South Etobicoke. So through Nojila, we came to know that the opportunity to join this program, this session. So I'm looking forward to see what we can contribute it from a community center in order to achieve the goal. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and for supporting your members in this way. Revital.
Hey, I'm Ravital. I work for Lakeshore Arts in Etobicoke, so I'm pretty new to the area, but I wanted to kind of learn about what's happening in terms of affordable housing initiatives in the area and get to know the community a little better and see where I can insert myself for support, either as an LSA employee or just as an individual.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Yolanda.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Yolanda. I work for LAMP with the Early On department. Jasmine invited me to come and I'd like to learn a little bit more so I can be able to help families that I service in the community of Etobicoke. So I'm here to learn.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Xian.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Xian. I have been in South Etobicoke for over 22 years. I think I've been volunteering with LAMP for probably close to that time as well. I am a part of the Community Relations Committee, also a part of the Lakeshore Village Action Group that we used to gather with. The reason why I'm here is because it was brought forward in our community relations meeting, and I am here to put my support behind affordable housing and what that really means. I remember Salome, and we had a gathering where we were discussing what does affordable housing look like, and yeah, so I'm here to learn more and then to bring that information back to the community relations members.
Awesome, that's amazing. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Ron?
Hello, my name is Ron. I'm the client support intake and housing worker at Stonegate Community Health Center, and just here to get more information and learn today.
Awesome, thank you so much for joining us. Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm rejoining again. I'm also I was in during the afternoon session as well here. I'm joining from Toronto. I don't live in a South Etobicoke, but I'm joining to see how can we align ship to fight for the affordable housing, because the housing crisis in Toronto is, I think everywhere in Canada is just crazy. And yeah, I'm happy, very happy to be a part of a community.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy, and thanks for joining us and being a part of the conversation. I think there's one more person. It's a phone number. I don't remember what the thing is to unmute. Oh, you got it. Perfect.
Green.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today as well. Awesome. So I think that's everybody. If I missed anyone, please let me know.
It's Irene. I'm the numbered person.
Oh. Okay. Hi, Irene. How are you?
Fine, thanks. I'll be brief. I'd like to hear as much of the wonderful information you're providing. I'm a retiree. I've lived in South Etobicoke since 2012, and kudos to LAMP and all the affiliates. I've learned so much by taking part in these calls, and I'm going to keep quiet now so I can learn some more.
Awesome. Well, we always love hearing everybody's perspective. So thank you for joining the call this evening. If there's anyone I missed, anyone else, please let me know. But if not, then we'll move on to the next section.
And that's
okay.
Linda.
Yeah.
Okay, so LAHAAG's involvement in the community. The Lakeshore Affordable Housing Advocacy and Action Group is a grassroots resident-led coalition and includes service providers, community organizations, and community leaders working towards housing justice and housing equity in South Etobicoke. We have been engaged in community development work around housing issues for over 3 years. We meet every first Tuesday of the month to discuss the issues of affordable housing in our communities and respond through advocacy and action. Our mission statement. LAHAAG's mission is to support our neighborhoods to locate, protect, and develop safe, secure, affordable housing.
So we've been quite busy over the pandemic with our advocacy. We've held community roundtables on affordable housing. We've advocated for affordable housing, such as rent geared to income and supportive housing, during community consultations on new housing development applications and city-led constellations. Sorry. We've had 3 affordable housing meetings with MP James Maloney to advocate for affordable housing projects in this ward. We've had affordable housing discussions with Councillor Grimes' office, including a roundtable discussion with the Housing Secretariat Director Abby Bond, Creatio, and others. We've advocated for portable housing subsidies in the Ontario pre-budget consultations with the Etobicoke Lakeshore MPP Christine Hogarth and Michael Parza, PA to the Ministry of Finance. We've participated and helped to organize 3 federal Etobicoke Lakeshore All Candidates debates, and we've built relationships and collaborations with Humber College, Toronto Neighborhood Group, HouseLink and Mainstay, Toronto Community Benefits Network, People's Parkdale Economy, Parkdale People's Economy, South Etobicoke Legal Services, CIRA, MFTA, Albion Neighborhood Services, Daily Bread Food Bank, and many more. Thank you.
Amazing. So I'm just going to facilitate a bit of a discussion period here. So we want to hear from all of you, because I think it's really important within this roundtable discussion that we hear from what all of you are seeing in South Etobicoke. So our kind of guiding question is, what are the main housing issues that you've been seeing in South Etobicoke? That might be personally with friends and family or personal experience. It might be on a professional or organizational level, or things you're reading about. So feel free for anyone to get the conversation started. If you feel more comfortable in the chat box, that's fine, but you can also raise your hand or unmute. Yep, Shan.
So we had this discussion in our group with Salome, and it was around the conditions of affordable housing, and about also the structure of rent geared co-ops or franchises, because it leaves a lot of the members or renters in a really tough spot, because some of the conditions are poor in some of the rent geared or low income housing, and there's no money being put into those areas. So we have people who may have that housing, but they're not in livable conditions. So for me personally, that's one of the issues I see.
Sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for raising that. I definitely agree. I feel like there's, when people do have affordable housing, it can sometimes come at the cost of the needed repairs and maintenance that needs to be done, and the condition of the housing, which ultimately does impact people's well-being and their reasonable enjoyment of their rental space. So thank you for that. Gotham?
A couple of things, both citywide issues. One being that the cost of rent and the cost of housing and the gap to people's incomes, and then the other that we're looking for opportunities to acquire some existing rental, and we can't compete with for-profit buyers, and their pricing strategies are fully based on massive rent evictions and massive rent increases. So there's this
loss of pre-existing or naturally existing affordable housing as well. Also a city-wide issue, but we see it here where for some of our rental stock in South Etobicoke, the market rent is certainly much lower than downtown, and it's a great affordable, can be great affordable community, but that's rapidly eroding.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's so many issues between, what people can actually afford versus what's on the market right now. And for an average person, like, how are we going to afford, 2,000 plus for a 1-bedroom? And then I also hear you on the, not being able to compete with for-profit developers, which, there should be more incentives for nonprofits and for people who want to develop affordable housing. Kagan?
Yeah, so I certainly would echo those comments as well, coming from a development side of things. I'd also say, I just think the pace at some of these housing projects, the affordable housing projects, are very slow. I mean, you look at the Willowdale modular housing, and that's been held up because the MPP has decided not to sign the MZO. It would have been built before Christmas, but as a result of some NIMBYist action, they've decided not to move forward on it. And I think that that's another major issue that we don't necessarily get a chance to talk about a lot at LAHAAG, is combating that NIMBYism. I'm sure some of you who are on the organizational side of things have seen how intense that NIMBYism can be. There's a lot of miseducation and misinformation that's spread about the impact of affordable housing in communities. The fact that, people say crime rates go up, property taxes go down, they make neighborhoods dirty, like really all these terrible falsehoods that have no basis in reality. And the reality is those NIMBYist groups tend to have a lot of power, and they have the ear of a lot of politicians and policymakers and things like that. So that's also a very difficult hurdle to overcome for a lot of these housing projects.
No, absolutely. I think we've seen that in our own community too, with when the planned shelter was meant to go in, and then there was a lot of action opposing it. So you can see when there is strong community opposition, but then I think on the other side of it, what we're doing can be just as powerful as well. So I do hope that, our collective action can really wield the results we want to see. Judy? Oh, you're muted.
I know, sorry, I've got my screen open so I can see people, and that makes me hard to see the controls. So thank you. So there's a few things going on from what we can see. One is we've got a whole stretch of Lakeshore Boulevard in South Etobicoke that's not being developed when it could be developed. And the issues that we're seeing with the municipal policies is that even the proposals that are being made are below the level where they need to put in any affordable housing, even with, when you look at what's happening with inclusionary zoning, because all of the developments will be under the level of what's required for affordable housing. So we're not seeing any affordable housing going in. And to what Gautam was saying earlier, it's the price of houses is so disconnected with what people earn that there's something else going on in the market. And what we're seeing is this huge commoditization of our South Etobicoke homes, where we're seeing developers and land flippers and investors purchasing properties, and then they're applying for committee of adjustment approvals. And when they get them, they don't build. They just put them on the market now for $800,000, $1 million more, because they now have an approval, and they're commoditizing it and continuing to drive it up. So there is a real disconnect between what's going on in the housing market and what the needs are in the community, for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that perspective, because I do agree. It's not that housing isn't coming into our neighborhood. It's just that it's not affordable, and we're not having like a real level of affordable housing percentages, and then developing like purpose-built rentals. So thank you for that. Daniel?
I just need to make one quick point. I think that what I'm about to talk about pales in comparison in severity to some of the other issues that have been going on, particularly when it comes to sort of lower rental income units. But nevertheless, it is an issue, and it's that brain drain. It's the concept of the brain drain. We're getting a lot of our young folk who can't really afford to live here, so they move out several towns over. I've got a friend of mine. He's a civil engineer. His partner works in the advertising agency. They couldn't find a place here, so they moved out to Hamilton, which again, it's an inconvenience, sure, but it's also kind of a barometer. It's also kind of the canary in the coal mine. I mean, if people making that amount of money can't find a place to live here, or when they find a place to rent, it drains them or pretty much, sucks them dry, and they have to leave. That's kind of a bad sign for everybody else. So, that's one thing that I kind of wanted to point out there. I've been trying to find a place. I looked at Windsor. Windsor for a one bedroom is $1,900. So this whole radius of unaffordability is stretching across Ontario, and it's got to be stopped. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that perspective, because it really does beg the question of who is our community built for, and why isn't it built for everybody, regardless of income? So definitely that's a really good perspective, and I like the analogy of the canary in the coal mine. Tim?
Hey, yeah, I'll turn my camera on. Sorry, I was eating lunch, dinner rather. Cool, yeah, some big concerns already. For me, I think a top one is it doesn't matter how many units of market housing you build if the housing is an investment. Every new unit of market housing is just going to get snapped up by an REIT or a corporate landlord. No matter how many you build, it's not going to solve it, because they aren't being used for housing. They're being used for investments and profit. And those companies do not care about affordable housing. They do not care about transit infrastructure. They do not care about quality of life in our community. They just care about profits. So people talk about NIMBYism, and sure, there's some of that, but if you're fighting against developers coming in to build a bunch of towers they're not going to support, and they're not going to make affordable in the slightest so they can flip them over and over for profits, that is not the same thing. And if we are not talking about public non-market housing, if we're not talking about banning REITs, we're not talking about the way Section 37 deals are used, or the way infrastructure is being built or not built, then we're just talking about the edges, right? Tinkering around the edges. So we got to get at the real source of the problem, which is the way housing is used as a commodity instead of, like healthcare, an essential service that every single person needs. Every person needs shelter. It's not a commodity. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, those are really good points. I definitely agree with all of what you said, because there are certain policies that we can make, but they're all temporary measures unless we actually get to the root of the real problem, which are our houses and being used as homes versus just a place to park capital. So thank you for bringing in that perspective. Is there anybody else who wanted to say anything before we move on? No, awesome. Okay, so yeah, if you want to say more, feel free. You can always put it in the chat box, and we can sort of respond that way as well. But we'll just move on to our next section of the presentation.
I think I'm finally unmuted. It's Irene.
Oh yes, awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. I think that the problem is actually multi-level. It seems to be an extreme situation. You're almost on the brink of being homeless, or you've got $1 million millionaires. Basically, it's one extreme or another. I think we have to have new plans and new approaches toward the housing problem. The land trust was one thing that was brought up as a possibility. I think that we have to also look at the possibility of trying to get moderate housing. So it's not just for the really poor, although I do think that housing is a right. And it shouldn't be just for the really rich. And there shouldn't be vacant housing. What we really need is also to look at the middle extreme, as I think Daniel was saying, so that people don't have to move all the way out of the city in order to keep earning a salary. So again, we need a new approach. We need to have planners and developers, maybe developers, instead of the Rock investing only in housing to make their money, encourage them through government regulations and taxes to maybe look at investing more in businesses, and try and get the income going there instead of going and robbing the housing situation that we're now faced with. And I'll bow out now. Thank you.
No, those are all really excellent points as well. I think, you know, with the erosion of the middle class, we're not just seeing more people who are poor, but also more higher income people. So there's definitely a larger disparity in income inequality. So I think that's a really good perspective as well. I don't think there are any other comments, but yeah, like I said, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll just move on in the interest of time. So I'm going to turn it over to Jasmine.
Interesting conversations, and I hope that we'll be able to later on have more of that conversation with people who would like to work on some policy and things like that, because certainly we'll be sharing a little later on in the meeting some key messages that we have in mind. But I think that there's lots of really knowledgeable people here and bright minds, and I hope that we can continue this conversation again after this meeting. So one of the things that's happening in our area is a 3-year study, and LAMP and Humber have been involved with this. So I would like to introduce to you Salome. Salome Amadi has many, many credentials, including an MBA. And she also is a professor at Humber and Sheridan. She's a consultant. She's also a researcher, and her heart is in activism. She is interested in issues related to equity-seeking groups and interrelations across health, community, justice, and socioeconomics. Currently, she's leading a 3-year federally funded study on housing affordability in South Etobicoke. And the study has been based on community-based participatory research, which means everything from the questions to the interviews, it's all created by the community and delivered by the community. Salome is passionate about youth work. She's also passionate about social justice and community building from a trauma-informed, anti-oppressive lens. And welcome, Salome.
Thanks so much, Jazz. Always funny to have a bio. I know a lot of you will sound equally as fancy in your bios as well. I know some of you. So thank you. And thank you for all of your input and those comments that I'll probably be mirroring in relation to the housing study that we've done. So I'll just share my screen and start. So I will be kind of not running through it, but moving along through the data. And if you have questions, definitely drop them in the chat box. And if I can't get to them, I'll definitely follow up. What we will be doing is sharing a more fulsome report back to the community at a later date. So definitely feel free to drop that there. And if there's any, specific questions, I probably won't be getting into the details around methodology and things like that today. So a lot of this reflects what you all know and what you all shared, and I'll just be highlighting some of the interesting things that popped up. So about the project, it's been, we're in year 2, moving into year 3 the last year. It's community-based participatory research. And that means we're working with the community. We've had community advisors. They help design the survey and the focus, and we've been partnered with LAMP. And we've been helping catalyze strategic community partnerships and different resources. So community benefit agreements was one with Toronto Community Benefit Networks. So as you know, housing is going to be a multi-pronged approach to address some of the issues and make it sustainable. It's not going to be just a one-size-fits-all. Just because of the diversity and diverse needs. So we're happy that everyone's here and able to contribute and have been contributing, of course. So just going to highlight the survey results and just share a little bit about the rest. So survey gathered, you can see kind of the markers across South Etobicoke. So pretty evenly spaced around our different neighborhoods. Thank you to our outreach workers and research assistants who helped out. Daniel and Vanessa are here. We were out in the nice weather. I'll probably go over some of just the demographics and things like that. So landlord type private mostly. We had some co-op social housing. Respondents by age. So mostly those earning lower income. And we'll talk about, those, the majority that were surveyed are earning less than 60,000. And we'll talk about why that's also important a little later when we're talking about the definitions of affordability and how incorrect they often are when they're done by politicians and developers, right? Age across the ranges, a good diverse group. Total households, the majority were one person, so an individual. A lot of similar stories around, working full-time minimum wage, but not getting full-time hours, right? So they're having to go to the food bank, single parent households or being underhoused as we move up to two-person, three, and having children. So predominantly rentals, housed and not paying rent, and shelters. And then our wages, we have a good diverse group. Sorry, the circles are a little different than the numbers, but below minimum wage or at minimum wage is about 6%. And then we had the majority around 14 to 22. 22 is the livable wage in Toronto. Even that does not cover everything, I think, with a reflection of rent. Those earning more than 22 an hour, obviously a few have multiple jobs as well. And those on ODSP and OW. Interesting enough, a lot of the people who were surveyed have been living in this area for over 5 years. You can see on the far right end, as well as kind of just being introduced. What's more interesting that we found out was that when we overlapped years in our community and the issues, it was interesting to see that having greater issues in the yellow, being here longer, obviously they've have faced and are facing a greater increase in those issues, which I think is not surprising, right? I remember when there were motels here and the changes have been tremendous, right? Rent evictions, AGIs, and the commodification of housing that we mentioned. This question we asked, how satisfied are you? It looks at first glance that people are satisfied, but we always like to ask a couple of follow-up questions around affordability. So we asked, on the left hand, sorry, on the left side, we have, do you have any issues with your current dwelling? Yes. And then on the right, no. And then our follow-up question to that, we asked specifically again about if you had any other specific issues such as unaffordability, and that number actually increased, right? So even when they said they had no issues at first, that number shot up when we asked about unaffordability. So it is an issue. I guess some folks, they don't tell you on the first question. As I think was mentioned, well-being is very, very important in relation to housing, right? Safe, secure housing for raising families, for being connected to your social networks, your families, your friends, your community. That's going to be another whole other social policy issue too, right? As Daniel and everyone else mentioned about people moving out of the community, right? And they've been here for a long time, and that safety and security. So housing and well-being, it should be a human right, and we have to continue fighting for that, despite corporations trying to feel entitled to that. So some of the issues were repairs, number one, then rent. When we asked more specifically to list what the issues are, security, safety, being rehoused, underhoused, crowding, accessibility, living in a basement, and other challenges. Ethnicity, a diverse group, pretty much reflective, I think, of our neighborhood for the most part. And we have gender, mostly women, men, gender fluid, non-binary, two-spirit. Currently attending school, majority no. We all have some, there's unique circumstances there with tuition and renting locally. And so these next two tables are quite interesting, and I'm not a graphic designer, but hope you can follow along. So on the left-hand side, we have, employment and income. So, and we overlapped it with how much rent they're paying. So our respondents are paying. So full-time, and some of them overlap, of course. So full-time, part-time, multiple jobs. And I like to report both average and median, and I'll show you in the next slide why it's important to report both, because often we see the average, but the median is quite stark. Here, the average and median, you don't see a huge jump. And then the max and min I've included. Those on ODSP, I think we know, depending on whether you're working and obviously to a certain cap, absolutely not sustainable living on ODSP or OW and having nothing left over, right, for food and transportation and all the other essentials. We didn't report the max and min just because some folks shared, the rent they pay after the subsidy. Some share the rent. So we hadn't asked that question specifically, but just interesting to note. And those on pension, the average and the median. There was somebody who was paying $5,000 a month, just the max and min. But as we know, the reality in Toronto, sorry to be the bearer of reminding you of the bad news in numbers, but this is a little, this might be a little confusing as well. So on the far left hand, we're looking at household income, right? The usual ranges that we look at. And then the next column, we're looking at if you're spending less than 30% of your income, which is the definition provincially and federally, which no one seems to be paying any attention to, except in the stats, what you should be spending on rent. And then in the two rows, the black row and the orange row, you have the average market rate, which is posted on the city website by CMHC. And then you have the median rent of a bachelor, a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. You can see the numbers, how different they are, right? I think, for example, the 1-bedroom, it says it should be 1,400, right? 1,446. But in reality, we know the numbers and the postings are 1,900 and more for a 1-bedroom. And if you look down, you can see that if your income, your household income is in that range under 10 to 20, 20 to 30, it's not affordable for just the average market. And then it's definitely not affordable, even more, for the median market rent. So you have to be earning, if you're earning less than 60,000, you still wouldn't be able to afford it, right? The studio or the one bedroom. And I think the average, the median income for South Etobicoke is around 60,000. So the median income would not be able to afford the median rent costs. So when people say affordable and that the average or the median income that people are earning, it's quite moving into that low middle income group. So I think sometimes the NIMBYism that we get is that people conflate social housing or affordability with social housing, but the reality is that this is impacting the 46% of people in Toronto that rent, right? And a lot of people who spend closer to 70% of their income on rent. And so we do have a lot of kind of qualitative data that we will share at a later date, more fulsome. We asked the question, what are your solutions? A lot of similar sentiments that you all shared as well. And these are just, repeating. A lot of people shared rent control, rent cap. Someone shared, I'm in a good place. I have RGI co-op. The opportunity that I have, I feel bad when people I know can't afford to rent. I know people, single moms paying $1,500, roaches infested and so on. The concerns with community, I don't know, but yes, just being able to afford proper, safe housing and utilities. Rent needs to be lowered for low income people or cap the rent. The government should do this and a lot more. So we'll definitely share more of that. The other part that we are in the process of transcribing and analyzing, it's just been solo this year for me. We will have a research assistant to help out too. We're just all part-timers, but hopefully we'll get back to the community on the focus groups and the interviews probably late May. So definitely stay in touch. And year 3, we want to host a housing conference to continue the momentum. As mentioned, it's definitely a marathon and not a single solution, but we've been attending all the different groups and we know many people are sharing, we need, the alignment where we across associations and group where we can envision and align our goals and have speakers and local leaders share and discuss and continue to build capacity as LAHAAG has been doing, and continue to build on that and the knowledge sharing in a focused way. And just to emphasize and repeat, what's been shared, mobilization is really, really important. Every little bit helps in building that momentum, right? Power in numbers, education, research, and advocacy, and continuing to do the great work that everybody's doing. And just a quick thank you to the team. Presently, Jasmine, Du, Natalie, Vanessa, and our previous team members as well, the advisory committee. I think most people were here at the 1 p.m. Session, but thank you all, and the community. Thank you all for being here and being passionate about such an important issue. That's it for the presentation. I don't know if we have time for questions or if we wanted to pause and check the chat.
I think we have a minute or two if anyone had any questions. Yeah.
I'm going to drop the newsletter link as well if you wanted to sign up for later.
Yeah, it's Judy here. Salme, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. And I saw some data in it I certainly hadn't seen before. I think it's fantastic to have that kind of data. I guess my question for you, and I saw at the beginning that LAHAAG's done a number of meetings with various levels of government, but have you shared this data yet with any of the municipal, our councillor and the municipal leaders and the mayor? Because my concern is all this dialogue that we're hearing and all these activities they're doing with EHON, none of it is addressing affordable housing. And I think Tim mentioned earlier about the market-based housing, which the city seems bent on. It's not heading in the right direction. And you have some very compelling data about what's needed as far as affordable housing, and the city is not heading down the same path. And I'm just wondering if you've had this discussion with anybody and whether you've shared this data with them yet.
No, thank you so much for that great question. Not yet. This research definitely confirms everything that LAHAAG and LAMP have been doing to date, and we do want to create a fulsome report, and we'll be disseminating and sharing this in a very what word should I use? Assertive or aggressive manner, most definitely, just to back up what we already know, right? There's so much research on housing that already exists. This is a bit more localized to emphasize the need for all the great reasons everyone mentioned. But yeah, we have 2 elections coming up, so all hands on deck. Tell everybody, tell your 5 friends and neighbors, get everyone excited and interested in these issues. It's going to be, I think, a big one in the next little while, especially for these issues for sure. We'll definitely be having lots of meetings. We've definitely been bringing up the question of rental housing too at the meetings. So thank you.
Salome, thanks for the presentation. I was just curious how the tenure and rental type maps to what's available in more broadly, like how your sample matches with tenure and across the study area, and for renters, I can't remember, but I think you had 60% or 80% in the private market. So does that map to the rental market in South Etobicoke as well, or?
Sorry, tenure in terms of how long people have been in the community, that question?
Yeah, no, sorry. I was thinking tenure in terms of ownership versus rental, but I don't think that your sample is only renters, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe just type how the housing type maps to our housing types in the community broadly.
Yeah, we did have a question. I didn't put it up in terms of like who lives in apartments and condos and that sort of thing. Dwelling type, is that? Am I understanding?
Yeah, and I think you had a slide there. It was, I can't remember the percentage, but majority in private markets, some in co-op, does that map to broadly to the rental types available in the community?
Oh, yeah. I haven't researched, what's available. I've been wanting to do so. There's a lot of data that I need to still collect on my list for sure. I think the availability is scarce for sure. And so people are moving out. So everyone's sharing, they want to stay in the community, but they're looking elsewhere because the rent prices are just too high. And then the underhoused was the other issue. So the price, having to stay in smaller spaces because the price of larger spaces is too much. So there is a mismatch there for sure. But I can definitely look into it some more. Good question.
Yeah, and not availability, but just what's existing. So like what is the rental stock in South Etobicoke? Is it TCHC? Is it private? Is it
we have a mix. We have a good mix of everything. But it's definitely not enough. We do have a lot of social housing. I think the most in Toronto, I think someone had mentioned before. But it's in terms of is it meeting the demand? Definitely not. Amy?
So just what I was getting, sorry, if I could, what I was getting at, Salome, is that I think that across the city, most of the rental stock is in the private market, and that's probably true of South Etobicoke, but we should confirm that. And so then when you think about what is the what is the solution to affordability problems, I certainly, I think a lot of us are biased, but I think we need more nonprofit supply and public housing supply, but we also really need to help renters with their incomes, where, it's, I think, the difficulty to control, and I mean, there's rent control needed too, but in general, controlling the cost of rent in the private sector is very difficult.
Yeah.
And that's where most of the city's renters, and most of them are in the private market.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, most people are renting, and we definitely don't have enough supports in terms of whether it's and I think the rest of the presentation will touch on those solutions that you're mentioning as well. Amy?
Hi, Salome. Thank you so much for your presentation. I meant to ask this question because, we mentioned a couple of times election is coming. So, and I have attended just like a few of the kind of a pitch. And then when I look at it in the policy of some of the party that are running, NTP is just something that they're more looking into housing issue. So in terms of we need not only that is a grassroots, we're looking for the solution. We definitely need how government is gonna to support us, make a regulation, and with the income, the cost regulations and as everything. So for that matter, I think we have to move it together. So how can we influence the party that we vote? Make sure that they keep their promises. The problem is we elect and we regret later on. It's that dilemma. So that also maybe you can answer these questions, or maybe collectively we can think about what would be next step.
Yeah, there's a lot of solutions. I won't get into too much detail, but we do have to get creative and mobilize, right? There's a lot of models that work, like co-ops and land trusts, and different approaches and messages that we can hopefully push our politicians to look at more closely. And we do have to mobilize around that, right? I think, of course, it's regrettable when politicians don't do what they say they promise, and we have to maybe pick the lesser evil. But yeah, well, it's yet to be seen, right? In terms of, there's a lot of housing advocates across the city and across the country, more now than ever. So the pressure has to be applied, and we'll have to see what happens.
Sorry, last question. The data that they share with us today from you. Are you gonna when are you gonna to present it to government? And also when it's gonna to be finalized this come? I'm sorry if you already answered these questions. Sorry.
Yeah, no, not at all. I'm hoping to have it done. I don't know about all of the interviews and focus groups, but definitely in May, and we'll be attending all of the candidates meetings for sure, and disseminating, sharing to the housing representatives as well, ongoing from now till June and now until October.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Salome, and to everyone for your great questions. We're really excited to see the final results of this project leading into the final year. So Daniel, over to you.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to go over really quickly some recent work, some exciting work that we've been up to. On February 17th and the 24th, we held 2 tenants' rights workshops for the community that were well-attended events with about 65 people in total who attended. On February 22nd, we held subsidized housing workshops on how to apply for affordable housing with the City of Toronto. About 60 people were in attendance. And on March 30th, we organized and held a panel discussion on community land trusts and saw speakers from Build a Better Bloor Dufferin, Kensington Market Community Land Trust, and Parkdale Neighborhood Community Land Trust, all with over 45 attendees. We've also been very busy and successfully made some marketing materials and launched a logo, a website, and have our own little sort of at LAHAAG.com email created. And it's been very exciting, and we're just getting started. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of announce for those who don't know. So LAHAAG does have our first major funded project, which we're really excited about. Up until this point, we've been 100% volunteer run for the last 3 years. So this is our first time having funding, and which just means that we're going to have dedicated staff support to kind of move these actions forward. So it's called the Housing Affordability and Rights Project, HARP, South Etobicoke. We've received funding from the Community Housing Transformation Center for a 1-year project. So it's funding for 3 staff members, all pretty part-time, but nonetheless, we have a project manager and 2 community animators to lead the initiative with 3 main objectives in mind over the course of the year. So it's direct outreach to at-risk community residents, build out the leadership capacity and diversity of the LAHAAG leadership team and reduce barriers to participation. And the last one is to conduct research on potential sites for affordable housing in South Etobicoke and advocate for the inclusion of deeply affordable housing in private development. So just some exciting news. I'm going to turn it over to Jasmine for what's next.
So you've heard a little bit about some of the research, some of the work that LAHAAG has been doing and LAMP has been doing as well, and Humber has been doing. And we've really been sort of collaborating as a team on this affordable housing issue over the last few years. And really, I think we've done really successful work over the pandemic, which is hard to do when, you know, we used to have meetings where we'd have 30 people outside pre-pandemic. Coming together with food and conversation. So we're revving up back again. We've done a lot of great things over the past couple of years, a little over 2.5 years, but now we're moving forward. So what's next? With the exciting news of our grant, that's going to be so helpful. So what we would like to do with you and with your input and any other supporters and collaborators that you can think of who would like to work with us on this issue, because it's very clearly a Toronto, Canada, Ontario issue. But what we really want to focus on is South Etobicoke, because that's our community, and that's where we really want to focus on. And particularly, there's been quite a bit of money that has come through the federal housing strategy, the rapid housing initiatives, et cetera, et cetera. But as you noticed, we haven't had virtually any very, very minute amount that's come to South Etobicoke. So we really want to do something for to change that and to make something happen. So we need your help because, you know, we've had meetings, but, you know, we need more people to join our work and to raise the pressure. So what we want to do is increase and broaden our support base to strengthen our advocacy efforts. We want to engage more community residents, partners, and organizations to pressure decision makers into action. We also want to have community leadership series that we're going to talk about a little bit later, with workshops to build collective capacity, leadership and team building, skill building, advocacy, conflict mediation, community organizing, and empowerment. We want to bring together all three levels of government. And we've had meetings with the counselor's office, and we've had meetings with our federal MP, James Maloney. But we said, you know, we need all three levels of government to help us to really make this happen in our community. Everybody working together. We need the community working with us. We need to have organizations working with us, because the more power we have, the more people we have, the more we're going to influence something to actually happen. So one of the other things that we're doing is we're tracking where we know units are being lost to development or demolition. So I can tell you, many in Mimico, 13th Street, 15th Street, basically what's happening is these lovely, natural, affordable housing buildings that are a little bit older. They have been purchased by someone, and then they do renovictions, and people get displaced, homeless on the street. They can't find any place to live. And then these older buildings are now charging horrendous rents. So there was a recent report that said 100,000 units have been lost across Canada in the last year. I think it's more. And certainly we've had our eye in South Etobicoke where so many units, just natural units because they were older with affordable rents, are all gone now. Yeah. So we would really like some help around advocacy, because the more noise we make, the more signatures on letters and briefs, the more town halls, the more all candidates meetings, the more that the politicians and the decision makers know how serious we are and how something has to be done. Time's up kind of thing. So I think we really have to do it in a very professional way, and we need to use some of the research from Salome, from the research study, and get that out there. And we really have to tell them what we want them to do. So we want to advocate for innovative, affordable housing projects on government land. There's a lot of government land in South Etobicoke. We can, we've had some ideas of a parking lot, a CDP parking lot that's on the Create TO list. There's other land. There's lots of opportunities where we could turn government land into housing. And also, we would like to explore other opportunities. There are so many wise people here tonight, and organizations and people who know other people. If we all work together, we can identify some of these possible potential locations for housing. So we want to explore other opportunities to create affordable housing in the Lakeshore. And then we mentioned earlier, land trusts, other kinds of co-ops, different kinds of methods. That would be great. We also want to strengthen advocacy efforts around affordable housing, RGI and supportive, rent geared to income housing. That is the only solution for people, because if it's geared to their income, they can afford it, and using the 30% model. And we also want to incorporate a multifaceted approach. So we want our community partners, we want our residents, we want our businesses, we want our coalitions, we want all to get together and really force the issue, at least in this community, and make sure that we make something happen. So we really need your help and support. And we don't want to necessarily lead it. We just want to work with everyone as a coalition to make change in South Etobicoke and really make something happen. We want to keep the pressure up on the politicians and the other decision makers to take action on affordable housing projects. No more talk, We want to see some units. We want to see some of that federal money. We want to see some of the Create TO money. We want to see some of the breaks, the tax breaks, the city to allocate some affordable housing in our area. So.
Can I just ask a question? It's Irene again, sorry. I'm just wondering, Jasmine, if it might be an idea. Someone was saying, how can we make our politicians listen? We have the advantage of the numbers. Yes, we're not a large corporation. Yes, we don't have billions of dollars. But I'm just wondering, I know recently I was trying to find a particular service. I was looking for a good dentist. And they have Rate My MD, Rate My Dentist. Why couldn't we organize for South Etobicoke, Rate My Candidate? Or have like a report card to rate the representatives that we have that are representing our votes, and have like a bi-monthly report card that, or some way that have them know what we're not happy about. Is there any way we could do something like that?
Yes, we could do a platform marketing campaign. And that's something we were talking about platforms, because we have to be careful not to center out certain politicians or whatever. What we have to do is say, this is what we want, and platforms, and really show who's moving on the issue. So I think that you're right on the money.
Might have the power.
Yes, it's a very good idea, and I'm sure that that's going to definitely come up. So thank you for sharing that. And I think now I'm going to turn it over to Kate, because she's going to really share with us some of the 3 key messages that we really want to go out into the community and the community to share. And then hopefully after this meeting, people who are interested, we can get in touch again and keep this conversation going and do more work on what we're going to do exactly to make sure that there's a big show of support for affordable housing and some solutions as well. So Kate, do you want to take it over? Is Kate still there?
Kate, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
There we go. Now I get to mime it all over again. You're probably wondering about what number 1 is: more investment in portable housing subsidies, where Ontarians can access affordable housing in private development. I didn't even know about these portable housing subsidies, except in a very small area of hard to house, people who are hard to house, or people leaving shelters. And I'm going to talk about it a bit more in the next slide and make it clearer to you. So, but the key message is we need more investment in portable housing subsidies for all Ontarians. And with 32,000 units coming into South Etobicoke, we're requesting that a minimum of 15% be designated rent geared to income. Now, how this is going to happen, we're not sure. It could be that a co-op takes over a number of units in a condo building. It may be that we can then purchase them at affordable rates, so they can be rented out as affordable units. At this point, we haven't fine-tuned it, but what we need is everyone to know that we need a minimum of 15% in any development. So that's not just inclusionary zoning, but it's actual. Well, I guess it is inclusionary zoning, but it's got to be broader. We need to have more units, more percentage in more buildings. And we would like rent control to be put in place forever. And that's for all the buildings, not just the ones built before, I think it's 2018 or 2019. And that will help, and rent controls do help in what we're seeing now in landlords putting up rents when people leave. So this isn't completely a rent eviction, but it's actually if someone's moving out and then just up the rent. Rent controls actually don't allow that to happen, and there's a very specific percentage that the rents can go up.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include above guideline increases, and so we'd like to see those taken down as well, but that's another story. If we move farther into the portable housing on the next slide, we had a very interesting meeting. Can I have the next slide, Carly? We had a very interesting meeting last week with two men from Manitoba whose names I cannot remember, and I'm very embarrassed that I can't. But they discussed how Manitoba has a housing benefit for anybody, and it's based on your income. So in Ontario, we do have the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit. It's a newly funded program that provides a portable housing benefit to assist with rental costs. But right now, it's just mandated for priority groups, as I talked about, hard to house, people coming out of shelters, and it has to go through the centralized waiting list. And it's not available to the public. In Manitoba, anyone, if they need it, can have access to a portable benefit. It's based solely on your income, and it's done through your income tax. So you don't even have to go out and get yourself on a list and hope to move up the list. This is just straight on income. Now, it was the thought was originally brought in by NDP members, of course, but the Conservatives actually took it on as in a positive manner, because as we've seen here in Ontario, no government wants to increase the equivalent of OW, ODSP. They just don't want to do it. But by putting the portable benefit in above the ODSP and not affecting the ODSP and the OW, or the equivalent in what province it's in, it brings people's housing affordability in line with the local median. So the whole idea in Manitoba, what they do is they take 80% of the median rents in the area, and then they look at your income and they top you up for the difference between what you should be paying at the 30% to what is needed to get it up to the 80%. And if we can get this happening here in Ontario, we could have people housed efficiently, appropriately, being able to afford their housing at the turn of a button, at the flip of a switch, if the Ontario government would work towards this. And so are there any questions about this? I mean, it's not something I know really, really well. I was just so excited to hear about a system that could move us forward into affordable housing so quickly. We don't need to build the housing yet. We don't need to beg for housing, but we can use the housing that we have and then move on to building our housing and then move on to growing the sector. So that's the part that really intrigued me. And so out of the key messages that I'm going to repeat twice, once now and once when I say goodbye to all of you, we want an investment in portable housing subsidies in Ontario for everybody. With the 32,000 units coming to South Etobicoke, we want a minimum of 15% of them to be designated rent geared to income. And we want rent controls to be established for all rental units, including private condos and things like that, and to be put in place forever. So that is my basic key housing message. Are there any quick questions before we go on? Because we're going to run over a little bit late on this. We have a few more things to cover, but does anyone have a question? No?
Kate, can I ask a question? How would this work? Now, as you know, the interest rates are going to go up. In the past decades, when you had interest rates climb exorbitantly high, people were starting to lose their homes and everything, which caused a downturn. And I think that's when a lot of problems sort of hit the window. What would happen in the case of a downturn in the economy and therefore the price of housing?
That's an interesting question. I can't answer it. I can't answer it because how it would affect the rent geared to income and affordable line would be if small apartment building owners couldn't afford the 22% interest rate at the time, as it was back in the 80s. I do remember that was very, very high. So it would happen that way. But I'm looking more at, I am looking at the rental side of the business more than people who own their houses and then have an issue with paying their mortgage. So that's where I'm going to go with that right now. I can't see into the future. That's all right.
Question. Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome. And we're going to, anybody else have a question?
Yes, I have a question here. Oh, can you go back to this slide? Just, can you go back? Okay, you said within 32,000 units coming into Etobicoke, a minimum of 50% needs to be designated rent ghetto income. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? I don't understand it.
Sure. So most of the units that are coming in are condos and expensive houses. But within a condo, if we were designated 15% of the units had to be for affordable housing, say, with affordable prices to be, so a unit could be purchased by a co-op and kept in what's known as a scattered co-op situation, so that then the unit itself will always be kept as affordable. It's not all the kinks have been worked out yet. There is actually a co-op like that down at York Street where they've got a number of units in 2 towers. But that's one way that we can then use the units within the new developments. It could be that part of the social, in what used to be Section 37, where money or time was given, that there would be units given to affordable housing people, developers, to build their own within the development. There's still some things to think out, but we need to ask for it. Even if we don't have the solid, I want unit 44, 3-bedroom, 2-story, facing south. We don't need to get that specific. We need to get into how do we get the developers to sell us units that we can keep affordable.
Oh, okay. So who's responsible for paying for the unit? The government, right?
That's what we'd have to work out, because it's the same as, think of it this way, if we wanted to build a building of affordable housing, the only way we can do that is if the government comes in with a lot of money right at the beginning, right? And so that's what we would be needing. But the actual units themselves and who controls them would be in a not-for-profit, it would be in a co-op, it might be, in some sort of system, might be a neighborhood house like Keegan Liz works with. So there's so many options. Right now, we want the ask. We want to say, we need this. And to anyone who comes knocking at your door for the provincial election, and anyone who's knocking at your door for the municipal election.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No? At this point, so we've been through this about the subsidy, the portable housing benefit. And now we're going on to the community leadership series. And I think that's you, isn't it?
I'm so sorry. I just bit of a distraction at home, but I'm in it to win it right now. So let's get down to brass tacks. So we've got a great community leadership series coming up, and I'm excited about this for a number of reasons. It means that we get to grow the capacity of our own citizens. It means that we get to help them, point them in the direction that they need to go to affect positive social change in our community. And you know what? I'm just going to sort of read off the slides, and I know that we're a little past time, so I'll just kind of keep it short and sweet. But we're looking to start the planning and development of a community leadership workshop series, and we need your help. You see, if your organization, if you or your organization are interested in facilitating a workshop or sharing ideas to help plan the series, we want to hear from you. And just to give you an example of sort of what, or the avenues of things that we're kind of looking for, here's some things that we've kind of started already. These are already in the works. We're very, very grateful to the people who have put their time and effort to making them, to forming them. So some examples are public speaking, leadership best practices, how to attract and engage community volunteers, advocacy, social media tech tips, conflict mediation, group tools, and community organization, et cetera. So those types of things. It's interesting that there's a lot of debate whether or not leadership is an innate quality that someone's born with, or there can be learned. And we're kind of putting that aside because these are at least skills that people can learn. You know, you can learn to be a better public speaker, as I clearly have not taken that course. You can learn best practices. You can learn how to attract volunteers and also and those sorts of things. So we're not really, you know, here to you know, reinvent the wheel. And I have to admit I'm a little biased. I agree with Tim. Saying that it's learned. I think at least most of it is. And so we're just here to get the ball rolling on this. We'd love any sort of help, any sort of things that people can offer, whether it's facilitating, whether it's just being a person who can host an event like this. And yeah, we'll leave it in your capable hands. Please contact me. I'm just going to throw my old work email in the chat instead of my bizarre long personal one. And yeah, and really that's about it. I'd love to go into more detail, but I know time is pressing. So there's my email. Feel free to drop me a line, and yeah, take it from there. Thank you. Oh, Jess, I think that you're on mute.
I thought I clicked it. I didn't click it hard enough. So thank you, Daniel. So that whole idea just came, and that's another thing that we're sharing with you tonight. There are such great people that have so many skills and knowledge. We wanted to make sort of an invitation, an overture. It's not our project, but we wanted to sort of launch this in the community as a community project. And we're hoping that some of you will want to get involved. So we wanted to grow the affordable housing movement. So we thought, well, one of the good things to do would be to find some people who are interested in leadership. And there's all kinds of different types of leadership. So we were hoping that that would be something that you might be interested in. And sorry, my screen is just being funny right now. I don't know why. I'm going to just close this a little bit. There we go. So we wanted to make an overture to you to say, would you consider helping us or joining us or leading parts of it? You know, we're happy to share it. We're happy to somebody else to lead it, but we have this idea that to grow the affordable housing movement, one of the good ideas would be to grow our skills. And we know, because we've looked at some of the individuals that are here tonight. We saw some beautiful leadership accolades and skills and all kinds of things. So we would really like it if you were interested. Please let us know, and maybe we can build capacity in the community, and then we can build support for affordable housing, and then all the other issues that different groups are interested in, we can share those and just really become a stronger, more vibrant community. So we're launching that idea tonight, and we're sort of putting it out there to all of you to consider and hopefully get back to us. And you know, you could lead workshops, you could give us ideas, you could be on the organizing team, you know, you could give a workshop, you could suggest people, but wouldn't it be nice to have something very positive to connect our community around, something just positive? And hopefully we can all use these skills and interests to influence positive change. So join us also, how you can help in the next steps in a call to action for rent geared to income and supportive housing in South Etobicoke. There's absolutely no question that that's a key message, and that's something that we want to do. So that's what we want you to help us to do with your ideas, with your strength, with your support, with your knowledge. There's no question that we need that in South Etobicoke. We also want you to support our key messages to decision makers and politicians in the upcoming election platforms. We're not looking at signaling out people, but we do want to advocate for good, strong policies, good, strong ideas to ramp up their platforms on affordable housing. And we hope that we can do that, and with various strategies. So we need you to help us with that. We want you to help us grow the affordable housing movement in South Etobicoke by attending some of the meetings. After this, I noticed there were some really interesting policy decisions. Of course, we have, you know, some very strong leaders who are actually developers of housing and right here at our meeting tonight, and they've been involved with us. So we've got some really good partners already, but we need other partners and we need other people with other skills as well. So we hope that you all will take it back to your organizations, decide as a citizen that you want to just jump in, you want to help. And, you know, I can see already generated from tonight's session particularly, is that I can see sort of a policy group forming just on, you know, what kinds of policy changes or platforms can be made. I can see other people coming up with other really good ideas that we even haven't maybe heard from tonight. So we do want to hear from you. So I think there's some sort of circles and committees. This leadership series, I can't think of a more wonderful, positive thing to happen. We hope that you will help us to develop that. What do we need for that? We need people, we need facilitators, we need ideas, we need locations to host it, organizations to lead it, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what we wanted to share with you tonight, a little bit of what we've been doing. And now we want to sort of open it up to the community even broader to see how you can help. Because honestly, just to be really honest with you, we've done some great advocacy, but we don't have enough strength by ourselves. We really need the whole community to get around this issue. And we think, if you wouldn't mind, we're asking for your help. And it's not just LAHAAG that's leading it, it's not just LAMP that's leading it, it's all of you, it's all of us together. So that's kind of our little ask. Where do we go from here? Next steps. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Kate. And just before I do, I noticed a few things in the chat. I'm not really good. I'm not a great multitasker when it comes to technology. I'm hoping that Tim's going to volunteer for a tech workshop, but we'll see if he throws his hat into the ring on that. But one of the things I do want to say is we are interested in a town hall for the elections. And I'm not sure if you know this, but we did mention earlier in the presentation, we did have all candidates meetings only on affordable housing last federal election. And I expect that we'll be doing something similar again with the upcoming election. So that's a yes to that. So if you're interested, if you want to support us, if you like what we're doing, and if you can contribute by your ideas and your energy and your supporters, it would be great. Let's get something done in South Etobicoke. So I'm turning it back to Kate and thanking you all for staying with us, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon. And we will be emailing all of you to get in touch with us.
Perfect. Thank you. That was actually a very good summing up of the whole evening. Just one thing to remind you, if you want to join LAHAAG, Jasmine will put her email address in the chat. We meet on right now, we meet the first Tuesday of the month, and it's a wild group. We meet on Zoom, but we're hoping with the world opening up that we can start meeting in person at LAMP. And I can't wait to share food and chatter with you in person. Again, just to remind you about our 3 key points that we want to take out to the membership. More investment in portable housing. There's been a brilliant little chatter going on in the chat about who has it and who doesn't, or how it's used. So take a look at that. We want to get at least a minimum of 15% in designated rent to income housing in the new developments. I would actually go for higher, but 15% seems to be where people are comfortable. And that we want rent controls to be put back into place, including all the buildings built after November 2019. And that's it for me. I'd like to thank all of you for being involved, and LAMP and LAHAAG for putting all this together. Oh my goodness, that was so good. Everyone who had questions, it was wonderful to hear them. And I'm always learned. Every time I work on one of these, I always learn something new, and I find it inspirational. And I have to say, invigorating. It does move me forward. Sometimes you think some of the news would be like, oh, it's even worse, but no, we can go forward with this. Thank you so much. Any other questions? If you want to put them in the chat, we can go over them and see if we can get back to you later about it. But now we are at 8:42. Oh my goodness. And thank you all. I hope you have a good night and vote housing. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye. See you.